voice away. And so all day I sounded like Greg Brady on the Brady Bunch, where his voice would break. So this is not, this prepubescent sound is not how I really sound, it's just that voice, so please forgive me for that. When I had the opportunity to step over here at the beginning of this year, I came from the Huntington Tri-State Airport. And one of the things that I experienced at the Tri-State Airport was routinely, I would have people come to my office looking for work. And they would come in, they would have a resume, and they would say, look, I have a background in machining, I've worked for Coke, I've worked for a steel company, and I would be forced to say at the end of their conversation, I'm sorry, I don't have any work for you. And then I had to send them away. And that happened routinely, and it was very difficult for me. Before I had that experience, I worked at the Lexington Airport. And while I was at the Lexington Airport, I ran the badging office. So I would do the security checks and everybody who came through to work on the airport. And what I found was we had a large number of people from West Virginia who were coming to work in Lexington. And I asked why. It was because they were all displaced workers. They were looking for work. So they were coming to Lexington to go to flight school or coming to work on our construction projects at the airport. So when I was given the opportunity to come to Huntington, when I was hired by Brent Brown, one of the things that struck me about the airport up there was the opportunity it represented. It has open space, it has room to grow, it has room for companies, corporations. And then when I met the folks at Jaeger, I could see how willing and open they were to continue to grow aviation. And so I came to West Virginia knowing that there was a very positive attitude taken by not only the companies in the area that I had met with, but some of the most influential people in the aerospace industry. So when I stepped into this position, I sat back and I thought to myself, okay, we know what West Virginia needs, but where does West Virginia stand now? And so I started to dig and try to do some research to find out what is the status right now of West Virginia in comparison to the rest of the country for the aerospace industry. And so let's kind of take a look at just some things right off the top. If we look at North Central, North Central is a good example of what can be done in West Virginia in the aerospace industry and how it should be done. They have done a tremendous job up there bringing companies in, keeping those companies, and catering to new companies, generating $1 billion worth of value for the rest of the state and the region. And that is phenomenal. If we look at across the state some more, let's look at Centrillium up in Ravenswood. Centrillium in 2018 entered a contract with Boeing to supply aerospace steel. That is huge. That is billions and billions of dollars of aluminum produced for the largest aerospace manufacturer in the country. Just a couple weeks ago, they announced another deal with Blue Orbit, which is Jeff Bezos, to produce and manufacture aluminum for his launch modules. So just north of us, we have a company that's doing some amazing things. It was also announced just a little while ago that Northrop Grumman is going to be expanding over in Mineral County to the tune of 500 jobs. Again, that's huge. And so there's a lot of really good things happening. So I sit back and ask myself, okay, where do we stand so that we can know where we are so that we can expand more? And in the process of doing that research, I came across a group called the Teal Group. Teal Group is a national aerospace consultancy. They specialize in data. And so in 2018, they put out a study called the ACES study, which is the Aerospace Competitive Economics Study. It breaks down all 50 states by a number of metrics and shows where each state sits in their desirability for the aerospace industry. And so it emphasizes the qualities which are most desirable for aerospace manufacturing. And so I did put together a PowerPoint. If anybody wants copies of my notes, I'll hand it to you afterwards. Right now, nationwide, West Virginia is ranked number 7 for the aerospace industry investment in terms of cost. So if an aerospace company wants to come here, if we look at labor costs, if we look at material cost, if we look at energy cost, construction cost, in all of those areas across the board, we are in the top 10 of the country for attractiveness for aerospace companies right now. And that's phenomenal. I mean, that's something I had not heard. West Virginia is currently 13th in the country in terms of risk aversion. So we're one of the top states in the country to invest in and keep their investments safe. So if we're looking at insurance premiums, one of the best in the country. Insurance losses, earthquake premiums, extreme weather issues, anything that could negatively impact their physical capital investment here, we rank very high. And that's something that we should be proud of, and that's something that we should continue to capitalize on. Because nothing is worse. There's a famous picture from one of the hurricanes that hit Texas. And it's a picture of the airport in Houston. And when you're looking at the airport, all you can see is tails sticking up over the water because all of that got soaked and just drowned. West Virginia is currently 24th in the nation in terms of aerospace suited infrastructure. And we're talking about suited infrastructure, we're talking about the compatibility of our airports to meet their demand. We're talking about access to rail. We're talking about shipping costs via water to deep water ports on the East Coast. Now this is fascinating because West Virginia ranks higher than states with larger aerospace investment. So if we're looking at California, if we're looking at Maine, if we're looking at Hawaii, Indiana, Tennessee, Rhode Island, and even Texas, we stand above them in terms of our attractiveness for aerospace investment. And if you look at the size of the aerospace industry in Texas, that's something that we should be talking about and selling to people as far as our ability to continue to do business. We currently rate 26th in the nation in terms of taxes and incentives. This is something that is good for us now. 26 is good. It's something that we should be pressing our representation to do better on. But when we're looking at corporate income, workers' compensation, personal income tax, manufacturing taxes, property taxes, and sales taxes, we're 26th in the nation. We should be talking about that, and we should be actively pushing to make sure that that comes up. So we know that's a little bit of where we stand, and those are the positives of where we stand right now. So the question is, what does the industry need? So the next question I asked was, what does the industry want from us? What can we provide? So when we went out to the industry and we started talking to them, the number one thing that they said was they need workforce. All of these companies need workforce. They need welders, they need machinists, they need mechanics. They are starving for mechanics. And I'm just going to give you some numbers. Airbus projects that they're going to need 630,000 aerospace technicians between now and 2036. Okay, and of that, 550,000 is just technicians. So if we look at Boeing, Boeing's estimate is actually a little bit higher. Boeing estimates that their worldwide need for aerospace welders, machinists, technicians, and engineers stands at 754,000 between now and 2037. That's new people. In the United States alone, they need 186,000 between today and 2036. In West Virginia, we have the people, we have the skill set, we have the history, and like I just said, we have the infrastructure to provide what they're looking for. So, I talked earlier about these successes we've seen in the state over the last little while. I talked about the leadership of Bridgeport and the job that they've done. They're showing what is possible, what can be done, and what benefit aerospace industries can bring to the communities and then ultimately to the state. And we owe them a debt of thanks for that because we see what the possibilities are. So let's think for a second. Let's say we could replicate that and we could get another situation like North Central has. And we could get another Northrop Grumman. We could get another Centralia. What will be the economic possibilities for the state if we could do that again and again? So, in order to get a look at what that would look like, I'm going to look at Ohio, and I'm going to look at Kentucky. Because those two states right now are going gangbusters. So in Ohio, we're looking at more than 590 aerospace companies throughout the state. They have 2 aerospace clusters. The cluster in Dayton alone provides $4.3 billion worth of investment in the state. They have 80 campuses, which provide engineering and other engineering tech programs. They have 8 aviation mechanic technician schools throughout the state. And even with 8 schools and these other programs, they cannot meet the demand of the industry. The aerospace industry, in terms of responding to Ohio's investment in education and infrastructure, purchased more than $18 billion worth of services from Ohio in 2017 alone. So, let's take a look at one more. Let's take a look at Kentucky, which has a growing industry which is not quite as vibrant as Ohio's yet. Aerospace and aviation contribute $3.4 billion in economic activity to the state's $3.4 billion to the state's economic activity. It makes up 0.8% of the entire state's economic output. It represents $11.7 billion of income in exports alone, just for aerospace. Aerospace is Kentucky's largest export, period. They have 6 universities offering aerospace and aviation-related programs. They have 2 aviation maintenance technician programs, and they received funding to start 2 more in Eastern Kentucky. They have reached out to the industry and they've asked the question, what do you need? The industry said workforce. We're asking the same question. So we have an opportunity here. We have success stories in the state. We have local manufacturers like Star Technologies, which show us that it can be done here, and they've done it largely on their own. Our CBI has been there to help them as they've made their way through. So what I want you guys to think about is this. We all know companies that need to expand. We all know technicians who are capable. We all know people that have great ideas. We all have land in our areas that are investment worthy. So the question is, what can we do as we come together to go out and to bring aerospace in and increase its footprint in our communities? We've seen the benefit. We know it'll help everybody. It doesn't just stay in one place. Senator Manchin last October made the comment that aerospace and aviation is never a zero-sum game. Where you have investment in one major aerospace company, you get tertiary companies, you get secondary companies. They want their suppliers close by because they don't want the high cost of having to reach out to suppliers all the way across the country. So let's give them the supplies that they need and let's grow it here. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Rick Hooveris. This is actually my first time meeting Rick. He's the managing partner of Star Technologies. He served in the West Virginia legislature from the 1980s and 90s, becoming House Majority Leader in the legislature during his tenure there. His manufacturing company started in 1994, produces precision clamps and brackets for aerospace companies that serve both commercial and military markets worldwide. You might recognize him from his tenure as a legislator, his concern about our community's civic and economic environment. As further proof, in 2013, the Herald Dispatch jointly bestowed Rick and his brothers Tom and Jack the publication's annual Business Innovators of the Year award. Rick is a longtime supporter of the services of our CBI, and we're pleased to have him join us tonight to address you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I found the remarks that were just given by Mr. Smith